This entire next module is all centered around the Indirect Survey Module within Survey Manager. Indirect Survey Module can be accessed by going into this module dropdown and selecting Indirect Survey. And you'll notice that the navigation screen in here is very similar to what you see in Facility Survey. And so you have a lot of the same navigational structure here. You have your favorites. You can associate surveys to your favorites section the same way. And then there's some additional navigation hierarchy selections in Indirect Survey that aren't there for Facility Survey. You have the survey type listed here. These are all four of the available survey types that Survey Manager currently supports for Indirect Survey. You have close interval, DCVG, depolarized, and finally your DVM wave prints as well. And if you don't have all of those four there, all you have to do is click that button, that plus sign button that I just clicked, and it will pull up a dialog box for you to add them if they aren't already present for you. And then finally, there's some customized folder options there that you can indicate things like job number and stuff like that, but I have those hidden. And then finally, you can associate surveys and survey segments as well. And so I'm going to go through in the next videos showing you how to import surveys into the Indirect Survey Module to get started on your analysis. Next, we're going to import files into Survey Manager's Indirect Survey Module for analysis. And to do so, the first thing you're going to do is navigate to the survey type that you want to import in here. And so I'm going to click on close interval here, but the workflow is the same regardless of the file type that you're working with. You just want to make sure you're in the right one because the import dialog does look for specific file types. And so from here, you have the option to either select an existing survey if you just want to add an additional survey segment to a survey you already have in progress, or you can create a new one. And so I'm just going to name this Indirect Survey Training and say submit, and it's going to open up that survey for you and allow you to import survey segments in. And to import a survey segment in, you're just going to click this plus sign, and it's going to open up this dialog box. And in here, you have a number of options available. First, you can drag and drop a survey file in here if you have one available and ready to go from your file browser on your computer. Or you can open up that file browser by clicking on that click here to browse button. And that will allow you to select valid survey types for import into Survey Manager. And your other option is to import from cloud. And so this will take all of the available surveys that have been submitted from field technicians and uploaded into the cloud environment for you to import in. And so all of these SVY files are available close interval surveys. If you're doing DCVG, this same dialog box opens up, but it will only show you .dvg files that are available to import. And so I'm just going to select this demo.svy and say submit. And the next thing you're going to do is make sure it has a date and a technician associated with it. You have the option to say whether or not you want it to attempt to interpolate GPS or not, add any final notes, and then you can say submit. And it's going to tell you that it uploaded successfully, assuming that it did. And then you'll say close, and it will open up that survey file for you to see. And those are the two ways that you can get survey data into the Indirect Survey Module. The next couple of videos are all going to be centered around data review and analysis within the Indirect Survey Module in Survey Manager. And so first we're going to talk about segments. In surveys with multiple different segments, there's some options available that will make it a lot easier for you to dig into that survey and make continuous surveys out of multiple day plots. And so first we'll talk about segment reversal. In some cases, it's possible to have a situation where you have a field technician crew going in one direction on a pipeline segment, and then you have another one starting from the other side and it's going the other direction. The result will be two different survey segments that are going in different directions from each other. And so to fix that, all you have to do is click this arrow here and it will reverse the survey segment. And then to see what that looks like in the chart and the map, all you have to do is click that reload survey, and you'll notice that my chart that previously had a bit of a gap in there has been resolved. And so this is what it looked like beforehand. Definitely something wrong there. And so all you have to do is say reverse segment, refresh, and it will reorder things for you in a way that makes more sense in terms of a continuous survey. And then the other option available is reversing or reordering survey segments. And so you can click and drag any of these and it will reorder the survey segment for you. Again, you'll have to refresh. And obviously that's not the right order here, but for sake of demo and purposes, all you have to do is click and drag and it will put the survey segments in an order that works for your survey. And then once you're done with all of that and all of the data analysis, I will walk through in a later video and show you how to export a continuous survey out of here. The next helpful thing that will be helpful for you in reviewing data within the Indirect Survey Module is this tools menu here. And so there's some predefined options for you to select in here, and it will highlight the back of the background on this chart pane here. And so I'll show you what that looks like. First, we'll talk about on-off exceptions. And so to do so, you can define the upper and lower thresholds for what flags those exceptions within chart options. And so you go in here and go to CIS and DPOL, and you can specify these thresholds within here. And then if you want to change what's defaulted and say apply, and then all you have to do is click on-off exceptions and show which ones you want to flag or not. And so you can just unselect or select these checkboxes and then say run. And it highlights the back of the chart in areas that an exception occurred. And then you can just click and drag and it will drill into that level. And as you go through and scroll with your mouse, you can see that the readings on the top of the chart pane change to where you're at, and so does the cursor on the map over here. And so that's a really quick and easy way for you to go to a particular blip in the map view and see what's going on in the chart in terms of comments and things like that. These comments are also, these comments and icons are also customizable in the icon maps section in the admin dropdown. I covered that in a previous video for admin controls, but you can basically say what remark information will trigger a different icon to show up in this chart. If at any time you want to clear what you've already had highlighted here, all you have to do is say clear chart regions and it'll clear it up. And I'm going to zoom back out here to see all of our different data for the inversions. And so inversion is anytime your on and your off readings intersect with each other. So you click that and it'll crunch through, and then it'll show you where those areas occurred. And then again, you can drill in into more detail and see what's going on. Again, clear chart region. And then that same capability is available for showing skips. I don't have any in my current view, but there's one right there. And so you can flag skips, it'll show them for you, and then you can either flag them or skip them in this flag spikes thing that I will talk about in the next video. Next up for indirect survey, we are going to be talking all about this chart area here and some of the capabilities available to you in the chart area. First, we'll talk about chart options, and so that's accessible from this little chart option icon here. And that'll add the ability for you to select whether or not you want things shown in the chart legend up here. It'll allow you to change the basis for your x-axis, and so you can say whether or not you want it to be shown by station number, engineering station, segment chainage, or measure, and you can select whether or not you want it to be imperial or metric. So some flexibility in how this chart shows up for you. And then additionally, you've got some additional options for the different survey types. And so for CIS and DPOL, you can come in here and to set some threshold lines. Those lines show up here as a dotted red line, and of course you can control what color you want them to show up as if you decide you want it to be pink, etc. And then you can also specify bar tolerances for DC-VG surveys, and then you can also set some different settings in terms of depth of cover tolerances. And so what this does is allows you to color code this depth of cover chart that's underneath your chart pane. That allows you to specify the colors of these bars that show up. And so all of this allows you to really customize how you work with the Survey Manager chart pane. And then finally, when you are inside the chart itself, you have the ability to right click and do multiple different things with this. And so first you can just say view at 1,000-foot level, and that just drills into a nice 1,000-foot view that you can see the data in a little bit more of a granular level. You can add comments to any location, and so I'm just going to add a comment here that says test and say submit, and it's going to say comment successfully applied. And now this shows that there's a number 2 there, so there's another comment present. There's my test comment right there, and then there's another depth of cover comment that was part of the survey already, and so I'm going to say okay. And then you can also add an engineering station in here, and with this guy you can specify whether you want it to be both directions or just reverse, and then you can also enter in the station number itself. And then finally, you can interpolate GPS coordinates in here. And so to do this, you select the first point, and then you select the second point on the chart, and then you give it a reason. I'm just going to say reason. And this will allow you to really interpolate the GPS coordinates between 2 points, and then say submit. It's now going to tell me that the survey is out of sync because it's updated some coordinates there in that GPS area. And then the final functionality that you can do in here is say replace GPS. And so if you have a spot on the map that looks like the reading was taken in an incorrect GPS coordinate, if you don't want to just interpolate that GPS coordinate, if it's just like a glaring spike and you just want to replace the coordinate itself, you can say that. And then on the map, you can click the point that you want it to replace. And then once again, give it a reason. And then say submit. And it's going to replace that GPS coordinate with the location that you chose on the map. And then finally, the last thing that you can do in this right-hand drop-down is, once the survey is refreshed, it won't let you do it if it's not, is you can attach a wave print. And so I don't think there's any wave print images. I don't have any available to attach, but you can attach a DVM waveform that has been submitted from the field to a specific location on the chart, which is really handy when you go back to review data later on to see exactly what that interruption profile looked like. Next up for indirect survey, we're going to be talking about reports. And so to get to the reports area, it's under tools and then go down to run reports. And you have the option to generate a number of different reports in here. Chart PDF is a PDF report, and that one has a lot of customizable settings in terms of whether or not you want to give it a header and what you want that header to say. And likewise with a footer and all of the customizable footer options that you have. You can even specify a logo that you want to show up on that footer. And then you can have the option of giving it a cover page with a logo, and specify some of the data that shows up on that cover page. And then you can also customize the report pages for this chart PDF itself, whether or not you wanted to just print out the chart, or whether you wanted to include the map as well. Do you want to include wave prints with it? And all of these different options that you want to include in the chart PDF that you generate. And so when you are done setting all of the different settings for what you want the chart PDF to look like, all you'll have to do is say submit. And I'm not actually going to submit this because it's going to start generating, and it takes a little bit of time for these chart PDF reports to generate because there's a tremendous amount of data that is trying to compile to build this report. And I don't think anybody wants to watch a bar slowly crawl across my screen. But what will happen is after you say submit, after it'll show that loading bar saying it's generating it, and then when it's done, you'll see a pop-up on the bottom right-hand side of the screen here. It would be in my map, but it depends on how your Survey Manager view is laid out. And you can just click on that and it'll open it in a new tab. And then the rest of the reports in here are all Excel generated reports. And so comments and objects, exceptions, you can specify the thresholds associated with what you want to pop up in that exception report. And then with inversion, it just generates it. And then with depth of cover, it allows you to give a lower threshold for what you want to flag in terms of depth of cover on that report as well. And then all of those different reports can just be opened up within Excel. And so this is an example of the comments and objects report. And it just gives you all of the different comments that are included in the survey. A lot of them are just depth of cover comments, but you can also see line markers and anything else that the technician put into that survey while they were capturing their readings. And this is just a very quick way to get a clear indication of all of the different important notes from a close interval survey that was taken. And then the other reports that are in the Survey Manager environment generate in that same Excel workflow. And all you have to do is click on them and they will open up and give you all of the different data elements associated with that specific report. You can save this information and share it with others, and is based off of the segment that you have chosen here. And so if you want to generate it at the complete survey level, make sure you have all segments selected because it does filter down to the specific segment that you have highlighted on your navigation pane. The final thing I wanted to talk through when it comes to indirect surveys is exporting this data back out to PCS or to Excel for further use or storage. And so to do that, again, make sure you're on the survey segment level that you want to export out, because the export button is at the individual segment level. And so if you want to export all segments, and for this one, I have 14,000 unique data records associated with all of the different segments for this survey, right click on all segments, and then you can say export. And that's going to bring up this dialog box that says whether or not you want to export it into a spreadsheet format, or if you want to export it directly into a format for the PCS bridge import, or an easier method is the pcs.zsvy file. And so when you select that and say export, it takes all of the different survey data for this survey and bundles it up into a .zsvy file format that PCS can recognize. And then when you go into PCS then, and you go into, first you got to be in Indirect Survey Module because we are receiving indirect survey data, and then go into Field Computer and then Receive. And then for now, you will have to select Allegro from disk in order to get to those survey files. If you choose mobile from disk, and this is an issue that we are aware of, the Receive Indirect Survey option is grayed out. And so Allegro from disk works just fine. So select that and say Receive Indirect Survey Data. And then once you have those two options selected, you can say retrieve data, and it will go in and pull all of the different survey files that are available in my particular input directory that fit either a .svy or a .zsvy file format that PCS recognizes for indirect surveys. And then likewise, if there were DCVG surveys, there would be .dvg files in here for me to import as well. And then you'll just select one of them and then say import here. And you have the option at this point to further modify in order to make sure it's associated with the right of way in your PCS database. If you leverage PCS folders or survey folders in here, you can select the survey folder series that you want this survey to be allocated to. And then you can ultimately, at the end of the day, say OK. And that will import all of your indirect survey data into PCS, where you can then access it for further use by going into the indirect survey data grid by going into Edit ISM Data.